everyone, and welcome back to Miranda Pitrone Art. Today we have this lovely mandala spiral for you to paint. We're going to be using an array of Decoart Americana paints, the ETCHER tool, and an angled brush. And we're going to be painting on a lovely Santorini tile. So the colors that we're going to use today are from Decoart Americana line. And they are Tuscan red, Tangelo orange, primary yellow, Kelly green, ocean blue, purple pizzazz, and then I used the black tie multi-surface, but you can just use black, it's just black. And then we'll be using the etcher and the angle spot detailer for tools. Alright, so what we'll be painting on today is one of these 3-inch Santorini hexagon tiles, and that's the design size is 3 inches that we'll be doing today for our little rainbow stone. Alright, so starting off with my 3-inch stone, I just kind of drew in some guidelines. I just used a straight edge ruler to take it from corner to corner to corner, right through the center on the hexagon. So we're going to put a nice dot of black here using the brush. If you have the dotting tools, it's about the size of a 3mm dotting stylus for your center dot. So this is the etcher tool that I like to use now for the swipes. And we'll use the gold end and just dip it in that red and start about an inch up and then pull it down towards the center. And we're going to work our way through the rainbow here, doing the same thing all around in each of our 6 sections. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And it's about an inch out from the center, and then you're just pulling it down towards the center to get your tail pointed at the center black dot. And the green. And if you're very, very serious about things being lined up exactly, obviously you can put in more measuring and guidelines, but I like to eyeball most of my paintings. It just feels very confining to have the guidelines, so that's just me. But you could do the same design, just putting in a little more lines for your guides. So if you did a circle about an inch out, then you would know your swipe could go out an inch out. Okay, so now we're going to grab that angled brush, and we're going to start with the red again, just to the right. And then next to each color, at the bottom of our lines above the black, we're going to just put a dot that is probably about the size of your smallest dotting stylus. Maybe a little bit bigger. So after the red, I did red, orange with orange, yellow with yellow, and we're just going to continue to work our way around each of the colors, blue and purple. And then we're just going to pop it out one. So the next one, I'm going to start with red, but I'm going to put it above the orange. And then we're going to go around through the rainbow again. So above the yellow would be orange, above the green is going to be yellow. Just work through the rainbow again. And this way too, you know, you can have a little bit more of the colors on your palette to just kind of dip and dot after you clean off your brush. So I'm just dabbing it, and then I just give it a quick rinse, wipe it on some paper towel, go for the next color. So green's above the blue, blue's above the purple. And this is just going to be the pattern until we get through the entire rainbow on each segment. So then we're going to kick out the third dot, but we're going to start above. The yellow is the first one. So the first one had red as the 1 spot, the second row has red as the 2 spot, the third row has red as the 3 spot. That makes sense. So now we're on the third dot, and we're working our way through the rainbow colors again. So you understand the pattern, I think. And I'm keeping them about all the same size. And with the brush, it's just a pressure. It's not, you know, when you dip a size stylus that's 1 millimeter, you usually get about a 1 millimeter dot unless you push the paint around a little bit. So with the brush, I'm just keeping about the same size dot just by the pressure that I'm doing and the paint load. So now we're on the 4th dot. The first one in this row is green. The 4th dot is going to be red, so we're starting with red for our rainbow again. Red, orange, yellow. So ultimately we end up with 6 dots, a different ordered rainbow on each arm following our guideline. So now what I'm going to do is come in with the etcher here, and I'm going to grab that black tie, but you can use any black. This one being a multi-surface, you can see it's a little bit tackier. You can thin these down and they will still keep their color. But I'm dotting it down with the gold end, and then I'm just dragging it out to kind of a teardrop shape with the metal end. So this is a 2-ended tool. I put these in my shop. They're super handy. I think a lot of people are finding them really, really helpful. But it's not anything you can't do if you have, you know, just put a dot of paint, get a toothpick, pull the black down. So don't feel like you can't do this if you don't have the tool. I was just at the Dollar Tree recently and I found a plethora of things that I'm going to start dipping and trying in the paint, just to give you guys an idea that you don't have to have expensive tools to do these designs, or even paintbrushes for that matter. So I'm just putting a fairly large dot of the black, enough to give me enough to pull into a teardrop shape. And I have to be a little more cautious on these tiles because we don't have a background color. A lot of times I'll put a background color down so that if you make a mistake, you can just either let it dry and paint over it with the background color, or try to mop it up a little bit beforehand. But that is not the case with these. These would be probably a scrape off, sand off, do-over type thing. So again, it's just pulling it down with the metal end into whatever shape you want, really. You can put little tails off of this. We could do tadpoles. We've talked in the past videos of calling them mukas, like the Zentangle. It's really just wherever your imagination can take you for your art. Give it a try. You never know. Next time, you know, try it on cardstock or try it on a stone that you find outside just to test out the designs, and then when you get to something like this, it won't be as stressful. Like, oh, I don't want to ruin my tile. I only have so many of these. So as I'm going around too and looking at this on the screen, I think that we'll probably do some small black dots heading towards the center in the white space below these tails. And that way too, there's a lot of white negative space still that you can see. And then the black kind of offsets, contrasting the colors. Yeah, I think I am going to do that, so. And so while these are so wet, I could actually grab from the teardrop shape, or you can dip and dot back to your palette, but I'm just gonna be a little bit lazy here and grab from the teardrops. So dotting with the metal end is a little, you gotta make sure you get enough on it for it to work. Otherwise, you see they can be pretty tiny or not show up at all. Also, for those of you who are counting, you'll see that some of them, the spacing is a little farther out, which is not a big deal. Take a deep breath. I'm going to do 4 black dots on some of these, and some are only going to have 3. It's not a big deal. See that one had 4. It just helps with spacing. It's art. It's not geometry. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's not stress about it. This is meant to be like an enjoyable time. Especially these days, we need some little time for ourselves and for art therapy. In my humble opinion. Just evening these out. Alrighty, so now at the end of each of our small dotted rainbow arms, we're going to put a larger dot. So the one that began with red, I'm ending with red, but a larger dot. So if you are using dotting tools, you're just going to have to use your largest stylus and kind of push it around into a circle that it's just under 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit smaller. But leave yourself a little bit of space to the edge so that you can have about 2 dots, 2-3 dots from our large dot to the edge. So again, see this arm started with green, and then I'm ending it out here with green. This arm started with blue in the beginning, and we're going to end it with blue out here on the edge. And if you have something like the acrylic rods, these are probably, yeah, about just under the 1/2 inch size acrylic rod. So if you have those for a dotting tool instead, you probably want to switch over to those. And then purple and purple. Just like that. Rainbows are really great for a color palette too, because you kind of can't go wrong. I mean, even if you have one of every single section of the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, some sort of shade of each of those, it almost 99% of the time, I want to say, it works out really well together. Alright, so now I think I'm going to go around each one of those larger dots with just one row of black, just to kind of separate that away, because we're going to do some kind of arches on the side to make our spiral. And I don't want the colors to blend in with the colors, kind of thing. So the black is just to set this big dot apart for us. And using the dotting tools, you're just gonna dip and dot the smaller ones, dot at the top, and then just let the paint run out off the tool as you work your way around these large dots, and your dots will get smaller. So you don't have to switch tools. With the brush, it's just a pressure. Again, it's just you push down a little bit harder at the top to get that bigger dot, and then work your way down around to the bottom, letting up on the brush. Because these detailers they come to a point ultimately. This one's a little bit older, so the end has gotten dulled after a few years, but they still will do the small tiny dots at the end. Alright, so now I'm actually gonna go above our orange to start with the red again. So above the orange is red, above the yellow is orange, above the green is gonna be yellow, and you're just starting the rainbow again like we did the smaller dots towards the center. So above the blue, above the purple is blue. I'm looking at the blue. And above the red we'll end up with purple. So now I'm just gonna kind of do an arc. So it's walking the dots basically, but you start at the top and then just work your way. And we're gonna keep with the same color all the way around to do this. So I'm starting off with the red. And you're just going to do a little arch so that your smallest dot ends up just to the left hand side. It's probably right on the screen, but just to the side of the large swipes as we come down, just to give us enough room to kind of bring our tails of all these arcs down in. But you can see the nice little firework spiral shape it starts to make. And then once you have that one down, you can just kind of follow that arc with the next colors of your rainbow. So I'm on to orange for the second one. And you just do your Roy G. Biv. That large orange dot is kind of bleeding in a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I think I must have had some water in my brush and it thinned it out a bit here, but just going to leave it and see how it dries. Maybe easier to scrape it if I need to after it's dry. So red, orange, yellow, and you can see the arm is getting a little bit shorter just because of the angle from the edge to the top of those large swipes. But just, if you can, kind of keep the arc along, a little bit of bend in the line, and give yourself a little bit of space. And so at this point with the green, I'm just on the other side of the large swipes, and that kind of gives you a gauge for spacing. And this is good practice for walking the dot spacing. I hear a lot of people saying they have trouble keeping their spacing, but you kind of get into a rhythm and your muscle memory kicks in the more you do it. So blue. And now I think some of you are starting to see that I'm already at blue and purple's the last one, and we're still gonna have some space. So, not to get too far ahead of myself, but we'll go through the blue and then the purple, and we'll tuck the tails down in. And then rather than stressing about some other shape element or something else we can tuck in there, we're just going to start the rainbow over again and see how many rows we can fit from the rainbow again to tuck into this little space up here. Just because you can leave it if you don't want to do anymore, obviously. Negative space on a piece is beautiful as well, but I'm going to just fill it in on this one for me today. Tuck. I'm only getting about 3 dots of red, so it is going to be shorter. You're not going to get to fill the whole long tail in, but it'll fill this space here. Probably red, orange, yellow is all I'm going to fit, I think. But that's the beauty of a rainbow too. Like if I had gotten too big of spacing on some, I could have done red, orange, yellow, green. If you've tucked yours in closer, you may get more rows in. If done smaller dots, more rows, larger dots, less rows. It's just something you can play with to kind of change up your designs too. You can see there we have our sweet little rainbow stone. Alrighty, now that we have finished this lovely little rainbow tile, I would need to protect it with a varnish. So today I'm going to use Liquitex Professional High Gloss, and then I'm just using a sponge brush to apply it. And I don't like to work it too much because you don't want it to get cloudy, so I pour it actually on whatever I'm working on, and then try to brush it fairly quickly over the piece. And then we let it dry. Quick, painless. This one also has UV protection in it, so it will stop your colors from fading. If you have it on a stand next to the window or light is getting to it often, it will protect your piece. So we'll see how this dries. Alright, so here we have our finished tile, all varnished, and you can see that shine, and it's protected, one coat. I hope you guys had fun doing this with me today, and I hope it gives you some ideas for another direction you can go in with the mandalas and some swipes, and also other items you can use besides canvas and stone. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a great day.